Saludos, greetings everyone. You are listening to Que Madre and Bienestar CCC and Warrior Mother here with Ali Cortez, Siobhan Hoover, and Ana Rosa Rizo Centino. And today we are talking about a couple of things. One is, why do we always feel the need to compare ourselves to others? And the other is the power of saying no and setting boundaries. So thank you for those themes, Siobhan. I'll pass it on to you since they're your ideas. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, so for those of you that know or don't know, Ali and I facilitate a teen group, and Ali had a brilliant idea of running this exercise where she gave us all a piece of paper and a couple crayons and instructed us to close our eyes. Okay, and the exercise was close your eyes and draw a cat. Close your eyes and draw a star. Draw your name, spell your name out. And so there were different items that she had us do. And then she had us open our eyes. And immediately, we kind of laughed at what we did. Obviously, when your eyes are closed, you don't draw the best pictures. But we kind of laughed. And then almost immediately, everyone in the group began sharing and looking at their neighbors and seeing what they did, and immediately comparing their own drawings to their neighbors. And it was something that really resonated with me because as a recovering perfectionist, I tend to do that a lot. And even Ali had expressed, I did not ask you to do it perfect. Your eyes were closed. Obviously you're not going to get it perfectly right. And so why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we do that, and how do we change that? Is the question.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I love the follow-up. It's like, so this happens, and if you're listening right now, you're watching us. Ask yourself, like, if you were doing that exercise, what would you have done? And I think we normalized first, we kind of grounded on, we all do this, right? So that felt a little bit like, okay, so we can release the shame and the guilt. We are all doing this. And however, I love that question, Siobhan. It's like, how do we change this? Like, this doesn't have to be the status quo for the rest of our lives. It's like, in that table, there was different generations there, right? Like we were actually the elders in the group. And it was beautiful because like we had some college students who were also like tutors there, and they were sharing their experiences. And then we had it's like a 12-year-old, and so it was this beautiful like intergenerational conversation that happened based on a collective experience. And then it's like, we don't have to do this. Like, we have been socialized over and over and over, not just in this lifetime, but, from our ancestral, what we're calling this legacy burden of like this collective experience we've had. And then we are here in this time and present moment to like slow down the transmission and say, we don't want this to be automatic anymore. And that's the resistance. That's la lucha of being self-aware. And then also, in sisterhood and in conversations to release that shame so that we can, just find some peace around this and go back a little bit and say, I don't want to compare myself to others. I want to also notice that what was the expectation? Ali did not expect us to do this perfect. Like, why am I putting myself in that space? And I don't have to anymore. I could just have fun and be creative. So yeah, that was a lot of the kind of the observations and deep lessons that we got from doing that together.
I think in part, it's the expectations of society, for one, as a woman and as a mother, how does that look? And, not to mention social media, we constantly go on and you look at these feeds from influencers. I don't do that anymore, but a lot of us do. You're looking at someone's highlight reel of their life, and it does not necessarily show the lows, most of the time it's just the highs. So, social media and then societal expectations have really created these expectations for us that I think are unrealistic.
Well, and then there's comparing yourself to other people, and then there's also comparing yourself to yourself, if that makes sense. Like for me as a mom, sometimes I'll find pictures of myself like 20 years ago when I was a size 2. And I think, oh my God, I was like so skinny, and at the same time, like I have done something great. Like I've given birth to 2 lovely daughters, and yeah, that added curves to my body, and I'm learning to embrace and love my curves. um but it's also like a process, because of societal expectations. For some reason we're taught that a certain size is better than another, which is ridiculous because beauty is beauty, right, in all its forms. So that's actually what I get stuck on sometimes, is like how much I was able to do in different times of my life, but I also couldn't be more grateful for where I am now, because um, Gloria just adds so much to my life. And those moments are not even things that, like, they're so precious that I don't even want to share them on social media, because I'm like, that should just be for us,
Mhm.
because I think in some ways social media does end up kind of being about bragging. Even for myself, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put on this cute outfit and take a picture. And it's like, no, like every day is beautiful and every moment is beautiful. And social media can't really capture that.
It's also okay to feel yourself, girl. You feeling cute? Go ahead and post that picture.
Yeah, transmit that message, right? It's like I'm beautiful and I love myself. And yeah, it's like we can even reclaim a lot of this, right? Where we feel helpless, like, oh my gosh, I feel this is automatic, it's what I do. And we can be in a space of reclaiming, like, the way I use social media will be in this way. The way I'm going to pause, like I took a big pause from social media because it I just felt so within myself, so many battles, about like, why am I doing this? Yeah, kind of feels like I'm flexing too much, like I'm putting out too much, happy content, and I'm just being I'm being, like positive and toxic at the same time. And then I was like, girl, I'm just shaming myself to like to have no space for me, like enjoying this process. So I paused. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna not share right now, and I'm going to, kind of nest for myself a little bit, my mind, my body. And I appreciate, sometimes I kind of do a touch and go and see what's going on in social media, and then just come back home. And I feel like that has been helpful for me to understand, like, okay, so when I'm going to do anything that's putting myself out there, I want to do it in a way that feels, like, not about like being confident, or like from, it's like, how can I do it so that I feel like at peace with this as well. And it's been a lot of internal work. And but you're right, like social media itself like really puts you in that space where all of a sudden you have a picture of you, like, 10 years ago, and either you'll have like, oh wow, like look at me, or it could be like, oh look at me. Like I have more of a like, oh my God, what was I doing? I tend to judge my behaviors, during that time. And so we all have our path in this. And I just hope that we can transmit that message of like, there is, reclaiming and redemption in this lifetime that we can have individually and collectively.
Yes. And I like the self comparisons that you say, sometimes you're like, what was I doing? And what was I thinking? Or, what? Oh my gosh, I look so different now. And, what I like to do is kind of like go back to those moments. I can attest to being at my fittest, at my skinniest that I've ever been, when I was doing the bikini competitions. And I look back and I see the smile and the banging body, and I'm like, I was so sad at that time, internally, just remembering, what it was like to be in that moment, it was like, yes, I looked the best I probably ever will in my entire life. However, that was a time, where there was a battle going on, and I was super hypercritical of myself, even more so than I am now. And so kind of looking back and seeing that growth, it's almost like kind of like a celebration, like, well, look how far I've come, and look, what's gone on in my life to get to where I am now. And sometimes it's like just a celebration of the road, the road traveled.
And I think we all have such different roads, because I think for me, part of it is when I look back and noticing that I never felt pretty at all those times. Like even when I was much smaller, when I was a size 2, 4, 6, 8, like I never realized I was beautiful. Like it's only until now that I'm doing more internal work that I'm starting to like have a full appreciation for myself in the beauty that's like inside and outside. But it's been such a long road to get there.
I love that.
It made me think about what was it for us, because I think we collectively have that experience where like we can see our younger version of ourselves and be like, we weren't doing the internal work and now we are. So something shifted for us, right? And I want to give credit to the power of no, that somewhere along our path, we understood that we didn't have the skill set to know how to set our boundaries and say no. Because of socialization, because of all these things that we talked about, just these past couple of minutes. But something shifted for us. And I'd love to give credit to that and how we each got to that part where we're like, saying no is powerful. And something happened. There was an embodiment in that. And I'm not going to say that I'm so good at saying no. No. I'm just saying that I'm in my learning and my healing journey, in this restoration of reclaiming, my path and being and my power. Whereas I can look when I'm my younger self, I'm like, girl, you had no power, like there were so many things in your life that made me feel so helpless. And I was just really like kind of just going and being under a wave a lot. So somewhere along the way, the power of no made me take a deep breath and come back, at least just to a different path. So what was it for you all? How did you find the power of no? What's your journey with that?
Yeah, I think for me it was the people pleasing, the people pleasing, and just saying yes to everything and anything, and overloading my plate, not setting boundaries with certain people or family members, and just kind of being railroaded over and over again, to the point where I became exhausted, just taxed. And it was very transformative for me to finally see what it was doing to me internally, because I was just running ragged, and that realization did not come until a couple of years ago. But once I realized, like, you know what, I can say no and not feel guilty about it. I don't have to go to every single event that I get invited to, because I would always feel bad. Like, well, if someone took the time to invite me, I should go, and getting around the what I should do versus what I want to do. That was a big lesson there too.
I would say that for me, it was the realization of how short life can be. When Adelita passed away, it was just like, oh, wow, like tomorrow is not promised for any of us, which means if I keep saying yes to everything, I'm not going to have time for the things that I really care about and prioritize. And so just that made me feel like I have to say no to things, because there are so many things that I want to say yes to already that are part of my vision for social, environmental, and economic justice, that I need to make time for that. And definitely being a mom and being there for my daughter, Gloria, because if not, this life is going to pass me by and I won't know what I did with it.
And really quickly, station identification, you're listening to Que Madre on KZAA 96.5 FMLP.
You're listening to the power of no.
Power of no. We were talking about the power of no and what that means to us.
Well, let's do some weaving here, right? Like the power of no in our self-awareness and telling ourselves, no more comparing, right? And like just noticing that it is automatic. It's something that it's been socialized and we, it's can be so automatic, and slowing down the transmission and just taking like everything that you're sharing, right? About like, life is short, like, and we're going to look back at our pictures year after year, and what do we want to say about ourselves? And we can even do that now. Like I have done some of the work where those pictures that come up, and I immediately automatically go into like, oh my God, you were so lost, and judging. I'm like, that part of me was frozen, right? That part of me was frozen, and it was part of, my response, my threat response was to always freeze. So I'm literally frozen in that time. And so I'm like, okay, let me thaw that out a little bit. Let me give it a little bit of, cariñito, a little bit of that, I say like warmth, a little bit of fire. She's cold. I myself have been beating her up every time I think about that version of me or I see a picture. So I talk to her and I'm just like, you did the best you could. You were a guerrera too. You used the tools you had. You didn't have that many tools, and today it's different. But thank you, and thank you for, because of you, I'm over here now. And so like, I feel like that has been, and I still feel weird, doing it. It's not like something, my husband will sometimes like, what are you doing? So I'll just be like deep in thought. And I come back, I'm like, nothing. Because it's so sacred. I'm like, yeah. And sometimes I'll explain it to him, and he understands now. He's just like, oh, okay, he's doing her thing. But sometimes I'm like, I don't want to explain it to anybody. I just want to have that moment with myself, and it just happens to be, now, and I'll do it now. But yeah, like we can reclaim.
I like the idea of reclaiming. I think, during COVID, with the great lockdown, it really taught me a lot, because when I had kids, it was like all I ever wanted was to be able to spend time with them. And, the idea of being a stay-at-home mom was not exactly what I envisioned, but just to be able to spend more time with them, excuse me. And when we were forced to kind of do nothing, right, and be at home, and get creative with what you can do with your days, I really valued that. I really was like, God, like my days are so stacked. I barely have time. When I come home, we do dinner, we do homework, we go to bed and start all over again. And it really kind of allowed me to see, okay, I don't necessarily need to stack my days in the way that I have been. And forcing me to slow down made me realize, okay, well, once this starts back up again, I know that I will be busy, but I will have the ability to say, no, the schedule's too tight for that, or no, I'm sorry, I don't think that I could make it happen today. And it does make you feel powerful, and like you reclaim parts of your life and parts of yourself. I don't know if you two have ever felt any of that, but for me, it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, even just your birthday, like celebrating your birthday. I just want to thank you for that opportunity, for so much joy, because I said no to some other thing that I was going to do to be able to be there. And I'm so happy that I did, because, oh my gosh, it was like the funnest time. And just that feeling of freedom, I feel like you cannot replace that feeling of freedom. And so I just wanted to say shout out to my Aries sister over here, Siobhan. That was so amazing. And I can't wait for more times like that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to keep saying no to other things so that I can keep prioritizing this show with both of you, and evolving it to a podcast. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, that day it was like I couldn't stop smiling that entire day that we celebrated. It was such a great time. Oh man. I always try to find ways to celebrate birthdays. I think it's so important. People are like, I don't celebrate my birthday, just another year, and I'm like, and like you said, life is short. We are not promised tomorrow. So the act of celebration, it could be for anything, really. It's like, hey, I got through today without crying, or hey, my daughter won an award at school. Let's celebrate. I always like to find reasons, um, to express joy.
Yeah, and Vivian is so good at inspiring that she actually spoke at my church on Sunday for Easter. I'm part of Pastor Moore's congregation, and yeah, it was so beautiful to have her be part of that service. And that's actually what she spoke about, the importance of freedom, and that God gave us that freedom in this life to be able to be joyful. So it was just a coincidence, like, oh, I just saw you last Sunday and I get to see you 2 Sundays in a row.
Aw.
It's almost like you prayed on it, right? Yeah, I think the three of us are like, we gotta do this more often. We gotta go, we gotta hang out with Vivian more often.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And I think that the gathering of, like, my sister friends it's so important to me, that it's something that I've integrated into my life as like a weekly thing. Like, I have to see some of my sister friends. I have to do something, because that time we spend laughing, sometimes fleshing out problems, just talking and being in each other's company, that fuels my soul, that really kind of brings me back to center, and I don't think that some women realize the importance of that. But I really began to carve out time in my week to enjoy my sister friends' company. So I appreciate you guys.
Oh, we love you. Yeah, I think it's a testament to like I remember a couple like working with youth and then just kind of seeing myself sometimes at their age, and I remember just being like, I can't have girlfriends, like I do better with guys and things like that, right? And it's like I think it's a testament to like when we embrace the sisterhood and like can really like be with each other and love each other and uplift each other. It's like we've healed some of those wounds too, because I feel like that's also a message, right, that we've been told over and over, like like comparing and like trying, I see this even at like some friend groups like my age is like like to like outshine the other person. I'm like, why? Like when one shines we all shine. And like sometimes like, girl, Ali, you're just you're too you're too zen. I'm like, no, I just don't, I'm not going to subscribe to that, never again. I subscribe to like sisterhood and empowering each other and uplifting each other, because it's so beautiful. Like like going back to your birthday, like seeing you on, and you were just like in your I'm like, oh my god, I'm so in love with you, like like thank you. I was really appreciating that energy.
Yeah.
I was also in that same boat, and I think Siobhan was also raising her hand as well. I always got along better with guys than girls before, and it came from wounds, because for some reason these girls had these conspiracy theories that I was like hanging out with these guys to like steal their man. But I just really like sports, and it just so happens that a lot of the people in my life who also like sports were men too. Like, I love baseball, I love basketball, football, so that's who I was around, because we could talk about the games. And so for me, it's like finally now, as a mother having 2 kids, I think I'm safer now for other women to hang around with, now that I'm settled down and married. And it's a shame, but for me, I also have to remember that this society ingrains this need to kind of compete for scraps and to see each other as competition. And that's part of capitalism, that whole scarcity mindset. So I just try to look at it as like, oh, you know, like that's just like the effect of what happens when you live in this kind of society. But also just finding people like both of you, who are just, yeah, I feel like we totally knew each other in another life. And, you know, we were lucky enough to find each other again in this one. And there's just so much beauty when we do get to connect with other sisters, and just love each other for our full authentic selves.
Yes. Oh my gosh. No, I can totally relate to all of that. And I think that, you know, at a younger age, women are catty and competitive. And everyone's trying to figure out who they are. And so they tend to follow, you know, what other deem as, oh, this is the way it's done, or this is who you have to be. And I think that for me, same thing. I was a tomboy. I always like wanted to be with the guys, like playing sports, and it was just easier. It was easier than hanging out with the girls. I did have some sporty friends who I like played basketball with, who I'm still friends with to this day. But they were able to connect with me. But I think same thing. It was like on the sports level, we really got along, and then they were not in the business of the comparison and being catty and, you know, that sort of thing. So I think that people, it's like we come into each other's lives at the right time. And for me, you guys, like all of this happened. So just, it was like serendipity, you know, the way that all of this unfolded. So I'm like eternally grateful for both of you, and just the path that we've been on we've been like, oh, okay, this person came into my life and here we are. We're very unique in the way that it happened with both of you. So
Oh, I love that. You know, you made me think about, like, you know, talking about like the power of no and comparison, and how comparison leads to that, like, well, now your competition, you know, and that just gets like, you know, really centered at an early age. And it's just, I think, again, a testament to the power of no, and just saying, no, I'm just gonna walk away. Like, maybe right now in this place and time, and I wish I could have done that, you know. I go back, I'm like, oh, it would have been so cool to be like, you know, 5 and know this kind of stuff. And be little and be like, sabes que, no gracias. You know, voy a caminar, me voy a ir, you know, like, how awesome. But even now, you know, it's like the testament of like the power of no, and saying like, it's all weaved in, you know, it's all connected. Like, I'm not going to compare myself, I'm not going to compete, you know, like, I can walk away. And I love that message so much. I love that message, because like, in walking away doesn't mean you're going to be alone. You're just, you know, kind of like, you're opening yourself up for more beautiful things in life, right? And we have that power. We can walk away. And it's like, you know, with like, you know, we've done it all in our own ways, right? Like, we've talked about like work, career, friendships, relationships, you know, like our own thoughts. Like, I just think it comes really a beautiful package to like remember, like, yeah, the power of walking away too is the power of no. And there's different levels of setting boundaries, right? Like, there's the soft, like, oh no, thank you, or, you know, and then there's like these interesting boundaries of ghosting, you know, like, oh, I'm just gone.
yes.
And then there's the other one that's, you know, like, I'm walking away. And then there's like these like, absolutely no, you know, bleep bleep no. We're on the radio. But wait till we get to the podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna unleash the F. But yeah, there's all these levels to it. And there's one that I really have come to like embrace a lot and I appreciate so much, is walking away. And that, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Walking away.
Yes. Powerful act. And I think we're coming close to our time. Do we have final thoughts on this, Come on, Rosa.
I love you all and keep saying no so that your yeses can be stronger.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, my final thoughts on this is just remember that exercise that we described. It's like we are all running through this life with our eyes open, but and we have our eyes closed as well. It's like we can all just kind of run through this and realize like how unique you are and how special that is. Tell someone you love them today. Drink your water, eat your veggies.
I love that. I think for me, it's just a reminder always like perfectionism is abusive and we don't have to subscribe to that. So that's another testament to the power of no.
That was amazing.
Thank you all for listening to Que Madre Bienestar CCC and Warrior Mother again. We'll see you next week. Watch us on YouTube, subscribe and follow on Instagram.